Welcome to my blue circle. I hope you're doing well. Today I would like to talk to you about some things that I have noticed make problems for the participants of the yoga session. And it's mostly for the beginners, but also for some people who are not maybe aware of the whole process and all of the components of the yoga lesson. It is the yoga etiquette. Yes, we do have one. Once you join my class, you will have to read it, and I would like to ask you to follow it, to respect the yoga etiquette. Some of these do's and don'ts are obvious, but there are some that people still struggle with. One of these is not eating about 2 hours before the yoga practice and not drinking during the yoga session. This has to do with the standard of purity, or let's say the requirement of having empty bowels during your yoga class. The most difficult part of the yoga etiquette is respecting the beginning and the end of the yoga session. The reason for respecting the beginning and the end of the yoga session, which means centering yourself in the breath. Normally, we start the yoga session with some kind of prayer. In the West, they call it the intention. But here, in the Arabic world, I like to just focus on the breath. I don't want to go into the spiritual realm, although it is quite nice when you do. So, centering yourself in the breath and making sure that you are aware of your normal and natural rhythm of the breath. It is very important to have this awareness so that you can go back to it as a reference point later on in the session and maybe adhere to it throughout the session. Of course, the yoga protocol says that we should start every yoga session with the prayer and the joint movements. They also call them the loosening practices. Those are simply warming up the joints, but not only the joints, the soft tissue as well. The fascia needs to be prepared for the movement. It is usually stiff, especially early in the morning, and it's good to move it a little bit so that you can have the movements more comfortable later on during the session. Please watch my series on stretching and understand how fascia is important, I would say crucial, for mobility and flexibility. After the asanas and pranayamas in the yoga session, we sometimes do the dhyana, which is meditation. I avoid that, especially in the gym, because there's too much noise. The space is not very friendly for the meditative state. But here in my house, where I have the yoga room, the meditation is quite possible. At least the focusing, the dharana, pratyahara as well. We do that a lot, especially at the end of the yoga session when we lie down in savasana and we want to become aware of the internal processes that are happening within the body. Making sure that all our senses are turned inside. We are using them to observe the inner world. This is how we develop interoception and proprioception. And of course, the end of the yoga lesson is sankalpa, and perhaps some kind of teaching, maybe from the scriptures. This is the traditional way. The palming, which is a nice way of becoming aware of the relaxed state that you have found yourself at the end of the yoga lesson. And of course, a little bit of stretching to make sure you come back to life ready and awake. We do sometimes talk about things after the yoga class where I explain to the participants why we did things and what we did and how this can reflect on their daily routine. I also give them some homework every time. They have to do something at home every day, maybe 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes, or just to become aware of certain habits or movements so that it helps them reach the balance and perhaps get some new habits. And this is why it is important for you to first center in the breath, and at the end of the lesson to observe and reflect and think about how this session influences your day. And this is why in the yoga etiquette, if you come later to class, take 5 to 10 minutes to actually center yourself in the breath, to do the joint movements, and to start the asanas safely. And then at the end, if you are leaving early, stop 5 to 10 minutes before you leave, go to shavasana, do a little palming, and try to reflect on what has happened and how you can use whatever you did in the yoga session in your daily routine to improve your everyday life. I hope this was useful. See you in the next video. Bye! Si vous rejoindrez la session après le début de la séance, prenez 5 minutes pour vous centrer sur votre respiration et réchauffer vos articulations. Si vous prévoyez de partir avant la fin de la séance, passez les 5 dernières minutes à Shavasana, position de détente, couché sur le dos.